Good morning. Are we your first customers?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Look forward to seeing the Liberal Party's democracy in action.
Fake news, fake news, fake news. Good to be a Liberal, Senator Price.
Hello.
We've been shown this much interest in us for a while.
Two competing narratives, both striving to be heard. One, the Liberal Party signalling to the Australian public that it has heeded the message of the federal election.
On May the 3rd, we faced a significant defeat. And the scale and the size of that defeat is not lost on any of us. And right now, we have to respect the result and reflect with humility.
And the alternative, more ominous message contained in a very narrow vote.
The Liberal Party has met and we have determined that the new leader of our Liberal Party is Sussan Ley, with 29 votes, and Angus Taylor, 25.
In the 1980s, after the defeat of the Fraser government, the Liberal Party began a battle to the death between its moderate and conservative arms, spearheaded and personified by Andrew Peacock and John Howard. The two men circled each other for more than a decade, through several leadership changes and a fierce internal battle over policy. It's a battle that has largely continued until today.
Peacock was in many ways a continuation of the sort of moderate centrist branch of the Liberal Party, which had very much been centred in Melbourne and in Victoria from pretty early on. And during the 1980s, there was a Howard-Peacock rivalry going on, partly driven by ideological differences, not so much over economic policy, but over social policy. Once Howard, if you like, triumphs in 1996, the conservative social policy that Howard had championed really got the upper hand inside of the Liberal Party.
We have to have a Liberal Party that respects modern Australia, that reflects modern Australia.
The catastrophic election results saw all possible hands, including party grandees, manning the phones in recent days to argue to a much depleted party room that MPs and senators had to make a leadership decision that acknowledged the message of the poll, that it would now tack to the centre rather than the right.
I reject characterisations of left and right. Our Liberal Party reflects a range of views from all walks of life that are welcome in our party room, and that is one of our great strengths. But I do believe that government is ultimately formed in the sensible centre.
There was no outstanding candidate, a choice between former Deputy Leader Sussan Ley, who has to take some of the responsibility for the election loss, and a joint Conservative ticket between former Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor and prominent frontbencher Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price, who many in the party room also blame. While Sussan Ley and her running mate Ted O'Brien won the support of the party room, the narrowness of the win, just 4 votes, immediately prompted speculation about how solid their grip on the party will be. For starters, in July there will be a changeover in the Senate, which will see the party room numbers shift in Angus Taylor's favour, including via the departure of implacable enemy New South Wales Senator Holly Hughes. Liberal Party historian Judith Brett says history doesn't make her optimistic that the party can overcome its divisions.
Well, look, I wouldn't be very confident at all. But I guess we have to give them the benefit of the doubt at this stage. And the seriousness of the loss should surely be a wake-up call that they have to move back to the centre, because, as people say again and again, the centre is where Australian elections are won and lost, and they've clearly drifted too far to the right.
Neither Angus Taylor nor Senator Price spoke to reporters after the ballot.
The Liberal Party historically, certainly under Menzies and under Fraser, put itself forward as the party that provided competent government. And there was philosophical values there around individualism and freedom, but very much it sold itself in terms of its competence, that compared with the more poorly educated Labor members.
When Sussan Ley and her new deputy faced the media this afternoon, she was keen to recognise the need to build support among many groups who abandoned the party on May 3.
We did let women down. There is no doubt about that. And it is true that the numbers of women who are supporting us is declining. And I want to rule a line under that.
Sometimes people can talk about Chinese Australians as if they're in some way different from the rest of Australia. I think that our multicultural communities in Australia need to be engaged very openly.
Sussan Ley also has left virtually all policy positions open. She would not commit either way to nuclear power, for example, but she set down some markers on issues that could well see conflict between the Liberals and their Nationals coalition partners. The Nationals have raised questions, for example, about whether they would remain committed to a target of net zero carbon emissions by 2050.
There isn't going to be a climate war. There is going to be sound, sensible consultation, and I undertake 100% to do that. There are different views about how we appropriately reduce emissions. Now, we need to reduce emissions in this country, and Australia needs to play its part in reducing emissions. That I absolutely sign up to. We also know that if we don't do energy policy well, we can crash the energy grid.
The new leader has a more nuanced position on flags than her predecessor and a less confrontational stance on the question of welcomes to country.
We should unite under the one Australian flag. That is my firm view. Of course, I'm happy to stand in front of the Indigenous flag, and I frequently do, and I frequently have. With respect to welcome for country, it's simple. If it's meaningful, if it matters, if it resonates, then it's in the right place. If it's done in a way that is ticking a box on a Teams meeting, then I don't think it is relevant.
Peter Dutton ran hard in his support for Israel and the local Jewish community after the October 7 attacks in 2023. That posed an issue to be dealt with by Sussan Ley, who had once been an ardent supporter of Palestine, a reflection of the time she had lived in the Middle East as a child.
The hideous events of October the 7th in Gaza have changed my thinking on the entire subject. Having said that, I remain a steadfast friend of the Palestinian people, and I wish that we had right now a partner in this peace process.
The nature of the electorate is shifting. They have to, I think, take climate change seriously. And the big problem with the last election was that they didn't have any policies. They hadn't actually done the policy work. I think they do need more organisational and institutional structure to get them through what's going to be a very difficult term of government for them, I think.